The planning for this building began many, many months ago, and it was an extraordinary undertaking. However, with the help of the task force led by Jon Love, HBA 1976, the vision has become a reality. Like Arkady, Jon's alumni involvement with the school has been extensive. He's been a very active and supportive member of the Ivey Advisory Board since 1998 and did a truly outstanding job leading us through the process of selecting the architect and the building design. Jon has given freely and generously of his time and his expertise. He's been an invaluable resource to me and support to our staff as we've been going through the planning for this building over the last 18 months. When we arrived at the point of selecting from the final 4 candidates for architect, I was actually getting extremely nervous. The plan was we were going to do this all in one day. And I thought, how are we ever going to decide in one day? Jon said to me, Carol, don't worry. You will just know. You will have an emotional reaction. And Jon was right. When CMAC did his presentation to us, I had an emotional reaction, positive one. And everyone on the selection committee stopped thinking about making the decision. We all just knew. So, Jon, would you please join me in the podium to say a few words?
Thank you, Carol. Ivey has had a bigger impact on my life than many. In addition to giving me an education which has led to a constructive business career, one of my first negotiations was to convince one of the classmates to become my life mate. And so my wife, Nancy, and my daughter, Christy, who are both graduates, are both here. When Carol came to see me, and it was almost 2 years ago, it was at least a year and a half ago, and she would come by to see me from time to time, always with some financial agenda. She was describing, and she was not the donor, she was describing to me her idea for a, quote, new building. And I said, well, what does that mean? She said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, Carol, I said, it's not like you can just snap your fingers and have a fancy party with a tent and important people and shovels. You've got to do blah, 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 blah. And because I am in the, development business and investment business. So she said, well, sounds like you're the chair of the task force. Oh, my goodness. So I said, all right, well, I'll do that, provided there was 2 or 3 conditions. One of which was the solidification of the stakeholders. And I said, the decision about, is the school all in one spot? Is it in 2 spots? How does that feel? So on and so forth. Dealing with the university. Dealing with the government, which would have to see the merit of this investment to make this investment worthwhile. And so as I went through that list, and Carol said, yes, I'll do it, let's go. And this is really testament to her leadership in bringing everything together to bring us to where we are today. So the first thing to do is to pick the right team. And this process started with putting together a task force. We put together alumni, and I'd like to thank my colleagues Andy Chisholm, Fraser Latta, and Pierre Pomerleau. We needed industry leaders. We needed a branding person, as well as a architectural professional advisor, Brian Kurtner and Ted Matthews. The constant help of senior Ivey leadership, both Carol, but also her team, John Irwin, Larry Wynant, Greg Dunbar, Niraj Dawah, and Kelly Cole. And lastly, the support of a very professional Western team, which included Ruben Galaduri, Dave Riddell, George Quickby, Mike McLean, and Alan Whedon. With this team, we set about the process. And the process was, and when we started it, I said, if we do this process right, at the end, Carol, you'll know what you want because we will have defined what it is we want. So we started with building a vision, branding, coalescing all of those elements that the school had, and how would that relate to in a building? Because when you look at a building, you always get a sense and a feel, and how do we want this building to feel? Second was, we had to settle on a site, and we had a few, discussions with the university about a site, and I'm delighted. I think this site is a phenomenal site, and I thank the Western team for making that available. We had to build a process for an architect. And I'm sorry, and before we did that, we went on a road trip, which was, we had a few giggles, but we went to leading U.S. schools because we didn't want to be the best in Ontario or the best in Canada. We wanted to see what was the best out there. And we traveled to new schools, and it's very informative what's going on. And from an Ivey perspective, it's very scary about what's going on if we don't get on with this. We then went out about an RFP process. We asked architects to respond. We had a variety of teams. We were delighted with the length of teams and the quality of the teams that responded. We narrowed it down to 4. We gave them each some money to come back and give us an interpretation of what it was we wanted to see. And the day that Carol speaks about, we were presented with models and really well-advanced concepts. And again, you know, it was, if we had done our process right, one of them would stand out. And C. McArary and his team clearly stood out, and we were delighted. And I was, frankly, a little delighted that it was not hard to get everybody to look at the same one and say, let's go. This project is, you know, it's stone and glass. It responds to both a contemporary feel as well as the Gothic, the collegiate Gothic, which so marks Western. It deals with the site. There's a great focus on function, the student, because this is all about the customer experience, and the customer in this case is student, faculty, and the staff. It's got a quadrangle design. It'll be gold level leads. We're going from 150,000 feet of facilities to 230,000 feet of facilities, and there's room on the site for further growth. 2-story library, the case rooms, big auditorium, pavilion, etc. This is a world-class facility, and this will help the competition for the best faculty and the best students to make Ivey and to continue Ivey's place as a leading Canadian job generator. Thank you very much.